NGO in health. And what's your focus? Childhood cancers. So our stakeholders are usually MOH, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, the teaching hospitals, any childhood cancer treatment centers in Ghana, the professional bodies like the Ghana College of Physicians, Ghana College of all those Ghana colleges, and donors, and every NGO that is child-centered, ranging from child rights to the other rights here. Yes, so basically, can we have someone in the engineering field share with us? I think your introduction, yes. You're an engineer. Oh, everybody heard you. Stop behaving as if you're not the one. Please pass it over. Who are your stakeholders?
Oh, okay. So for me, I think my stakeholders are my fellow work colleagues, the contractors we work with, and the clients that we represent.
Okay. Is there another field we haven't? Oh. Okay, okay. Let's pick one online. Anyone at all? Okay. Judith, who are your stakeholders? So you don't have to be formally working before you can answer this question. So Judith, unmute yourself. Who are your stakeholders? I do say, right? I know some stubborn educators. I hope you're not one of them. Don't be one of them. Unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please go on.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. In my opinion, I would say a stakeholder is the client. Maybe you work with your bosses.
Oh, I don't want you to give me the textbook definition. Who are your stakeholders? Within your sphere of it. Yeah.
Can I answer that?
You are.
My name is Julius.
Julius, okay, go ahead.
So your stakeholders are people who are affected by your project, directly or indirectly. Anyone who is affected by the project. Say again.
Never mind. Go on, please.
So anyone who is affected by the project, directly or indirectly.
Okay. Okay, great. So I hope, thank you. I hope as we all start through and listen to others, we ourselves have been able to answer this question and identify the stakeholders around us. Can you see? Okay. So we say that stakeholders are people, organizations that would impact on what you are doing or are impacted by what you are doing. And so PMP describes it as or defines it as individuals and organizations who are actually involved in the project or whose interests may be positively or negatively affected as a result of project execution or successful project completion. So the road they are still, let's see the motorway stretch that they are destroying everything. Hopefully something good will come out of it. If we think about that road, we are saying that our stakeholders on that road are those who are actively involved in the project. So name one. Those who are actively involved in the project. We are taught the engineer. Good. Did you say tractor? Ah, yes, the contractor. Okay, and we are saying, or those whose interests may positively or negatively be affected as a result of the project. Mention one. The driver, me, myself, house owners, it's quite scary to drive on the motorway nowadays. When you drive on the motorway, yes, it's fun because somehow the speed gives me a high, so it's fun. But when they cleared the bush, I speed. Hey, what if I? That is just by the way. I'm just expressing my frustrations here. But at the end of the day, I'm a stakeholder on that road because I'm negatively affected. This one is serious trauma that's even affected my speed. So at the end of the day, your stakeholder, anybody at all, positive, negative, the person involved, even you, the project manager, you are a stakeholder. Okay. So a person or organization with an interest in your project or organization. So with the cancer NGO, for example, the parents of the children, because they have an interest, they are also stakeholders. Stakeholder management involves understanding the degree of impact each stakeholder has on a project. So if you're a project manager and you have been able to identify who your stakeholders are, you have just done a quarter of the work because you have to be able to understand the kind of influence, the kind of power, the kind of interest those individual stakeholders have on your project. Then you are heading somewhere. One thing I have noticed with what I do at work is that there are times when you feel that you are going to implement a particular project. Let me take a very simple one like distribution of mosquito nets, for example. That is one of my projects nationwide. You start the planning on my small table. And at the end of the day, you realize that, oh, I can get this amount of funding from here. You check that. So you've involved one stakeholder. The items have come, everything is checked. But then you realize that as I sit at my desk, I'm not going to be the one to go every few hours Ghana to hand everybody a mosquito net. The people at the health facility who are the district people, I haven't engaged them. Or after I finish everything on my table, everything is planned. I have my schedule, I have my budget, I know where I'm taking what, my procurement, everything is in. I go and say that, now I have this project. Where I've gotten to, I need you to do A, B, and C. What they do is they go back and look at you, and because they are probably shy of you, they'll say, okay. And that is the end of your project. You can finish it up on your table because you didn't engage them right from the beginning. They don't understand what went through the process. So stakeholder engagement needs to be done right from the beginning, right when you understand what your project is about, what your charter states. So we could say that stakeholders are not important, but there's no projects in Ghana, Afghanistan, anywhere that has succeeded without proper stakeholder engagement. Unless you do not want to achieve your goals and you just want to do something to represent something, then it's fine. Stakeholders give informed decisions. So with the ITN project I mentioned, the NET project, we need to have guidelines so that things are not done anyhow. The last time I tried to sit at my desk and do guidelines, it took me about a year and a half, almost 2 years. But the next time we worked on this, we gathered a group of people around the table, funders, implementers, people with the know-how, project managers, and said, this is what we want to do. When we take this portion, how can we do it? We were done within 3 days. We finished the document within 3 days. So you cannot do a project on your own. You need stakeholders. There's one thing also about projects, take it be in roads, be in health. Once you are done with the project will have to run in a certain way. And when you turn and leave, if you do not build stakeholders right from the beginning, your project will sit there. Nobody would use it. It will just be a waste of your time. In health, we call it, there's no sustainability plan. For example, now most of the donors are moving away from bringing people from US and wherever to come and do the project. They would rather engage people in Ghana within the community to do it, because when they leave, which they will, it has to go on. They always do. Either a mosquito will bite them or something will happen. They always do. Okay. So what do I need when you are trying to identify your stakeholders? And it's important to do this right from the beginning. You can just say that you need A, B, and C out of the top of your head, but you need to take it one step at a time. Each step of the way, who do I need? And there's one other thing. You might list your stakeholders, but you don't need all of them at the same time. When you list them, you should be able to segregate them as to the particular point you are in your project and who you need. And so you have to make a deliberate effort to sit down and identify who your stakeholders is. If even it takes you more than the days you intend, you need to sit down and really do this. And before you can do this very well, you have to also understand what your project is about. You have to understand what you are setting out to achieve. And so give me an example of a project. And there are people who didn't introduce themselves. Give me an example of a project. Road construction. Okay. So she made me forget what I was going to say. But in road construction, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? Same motorway example. I want to be able to reconstruct this. I think the motorway is 20 kilometers or 22 or so. I want to be able to construct this stretch of the road. So your vision is to do the road. In every step of the way, you have to be very clear in your mind what your vision and your goal is. You have to have a fluid stakeholder list. That's what I meant by at any point in time, you identify. So you have a big master list, but you need to plan and identify who you need at which point. Sometimes it's impossible for project managers to cater for the needs of all stakeholders, that you need to categorize them. You need to know that if child speaks, I have to take it seriously. If Emma speaks, I'll consider it and see how best it fits. You need to be able to categorize your stakeholders. Otherwise, you die before your time, trying to please everybody on your project. And so you can look at it in this way. Internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. So the project manager, the executive of the organization, the unit head. So for example, my place, we have somebody in charge of procurement, somebody in charge of communication, somebody in charge of transport, finance. They are all your internal stakeholders that you would need. For your external stakeholders, these are people who, we've already defined what stakeholders are. So these are people who are affected by what you do, but they are outside of your organization. Now, without them, you won't actually achieve project success. So you need these people. They range from, I think I've mentioned, so the owner of the company, investors, sponsors or financiers, suppliers, vendors, consultants. So if you are, for example, you want to put up a fruit juice company, you need to know the person who is going to give you your plastics. You need to know the person who is giving you this is a simple project, by the way, the person giving you the packaging that you need. You need to know who gives the best juicer in town. So all of these vendors are important. Who are you consulting? Who are your customers? Who are your end users? This is very important, especially in the IT field. So you are building an app for people between the ages of 18 and 25. And you come and call me to give you input. Anyway, I'm more than 25. Come and call me to give you input on that particular product. I will give you input, all right. But at the end of the day, when you take it to the 18-year-old, that one I'll be home. So you need to be able to identify your stakeholders well. Who is your target? that person is also a stakeholder. Stakeholder management, therefore, is when you identify your stakeholders, you determine their influence, you develop a communication plan for them, and you influence them through engagement. So at the end of the day, stakeholders influence your project, but as a project manager doing correct stakeholder engagement, you have to be able to influence them towards the project goals and objectives. It also involves organizing, monitoring, and improving your relationships with stakeholders. So stakeholder management is a lot more about relationships than it is about paperwork. It's a lot more about you being able to get to your stakeholders, to being able to speak for them to understand. Some stakeholders are, what is the word? They have great influence, but they lack understanding. They have a good influence on your project, but then they really don't understand what you are about. So let me give an example. You have a big allergy who is funding the project. He get cash. Okay? And this allergy says, Debbie, meanwhile, you're the project manager, you know your goals, and this what this allergy say, totally off. But this allergy can make or make your project. So you have to be able to have a good relationship. Let him understand what you are referring to. So in identifying, In identifying your stakeholders, you need to, we've mentioned this already, understand what your project is about. Not all stakeholders have same influence or interest. So as much as we are all sitting around the table to discuss one project, it doesn't mean that I have the same interest. Let me give you an example. We are trying to get private sector people to invest in malaria fight in Ghana. So we did a roundtable discussion, and we had people, private sector, all over, mining, production, all over, all the different aspects. And we talked science before. When we finished, you're like, okay. Now this one said, okay, now that you have all that you have said, what do you need? And this one says that, oh, I understand what you need, but in saying it this way, I can't give you this. So at the end of the day, we gave them invitation letters, explained, everybody knows why they are there, but everybody has a different interest, different mindset, different in your personal film. And so you, the project manager, you need to understand these individual interests and meet them. Not all stakeholders will be needed at the same time. So you can't go every time you call a meeting, bring everybody on board. You send the mail, you copy everybody on your mailing list. When you do that, you exasperate them. And sometimes when you send the mail, they won't read. So at that particular point, what you are talking about, who do you need? Make it specific. Different stakeholders bring different levels of support to the project. Okay, so I was writing as part of my job. One thing I don't do very well is writing scientific papers, but it's part of what I'm supposed to be doing. So we are also supposed to analyze data before you can make meaning of what you are writing. In statistics, not too is not my strongest suit. But I was just chatting with him. I have this friend. No matter how messed up the thing is, he looks at it like this and see patterns and things. So when I get there, I go like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I've gotten to. What do you see? Then we continue from there. No stress. So different stakeholders bring in different things. You need to be able to know and identify what you want. Is he able to give me this particular thing? Then you go towards it. So different stakeholders have different levels of power, different levels of interest in the organization. And when you do, those of you who are here because you want to think about joining the Masterclass, please do it. Because you do this in detail, where you do the power and the interest, right? and you are able to understand at the end of the day which stakeholder you keep satisfied, which stakeholder you keep informed. For those you keep informed, it means that they have low power and low interest. They don't really bring much to the table, but you need them when you need them, so you keep them informed. There are some stakeholders that you have to manage closely because the power is strong, the interest is strong. But you know what they say, the project is done. So those stakeholders, you have to manage them, know exactly what they want, exactly what they can bring to the table, and you work towards that. There's also the power influence grid. The same way you are able to know which stakeholder you have to hold like an egg, which stakeholder you can talk straight to. That's not true. You have to know which stakeholder you have to manage better than the other. You have to be more careful about. You have to be more careful about the emails you send, the wording you put in it. You can't go to a stakeholder with power and interest, high power, high interest, and say that, okay, you know, today we'll work this, everything is better. This one has done this, this one has done this. But you know, you are discouraging that stakeholder. Meanwhile, this stakeholder can say, so I'm investing my money for, and then he pulls off, then you are in trouble. So you have to be able to understand where your stakeholders fall this model. You can use all of this when you identify each stakeholder. You can use all of this. Or Charles, should we go into details? Otherwise, they won't come for the class. We should skip it. Okay, then let's skip. Okay, so there's also the salient model that helps you to identify where your stakeholder falls in terms of, is this somebody with power alone? Where's the falls at the back and not on the screen? Interesting. Okay, so you want to know which stakeholder is just power alone, or which stakeholder brings power alone, or he brings power and urgency. This is a stakeholder you can't ignore and say, I will respond to the mail tomorrow. It has to be tonight. It's urgent. And so that stakeholder is number 5, power and urgency. Very dangerous stakeholder. You have to be careful about that person and know how you manage. If a stakeholder is, for example, both, okay, let's take power, urgent, and a legitimate stakeholder. The person has hold on your project. That person is a definitive stakeholder. It means that that person is a stakeholder you have to watch like a hawk. Okay. You will do this in details as well. So what's the definition of project success look like? Remember we said that each stakeholder has a different level of interest, or each stakeholder brings on a different interest. So to that stakeholder, what is project success? You, the project manager, you have to know. So if you, the project manager, think that when you are done with that road, you are done, you've achieved success. But in that person's eye, that road has to be of a certain thickness. That is the person's measure of success. You have to be sure you are aware of that as a project manager. Any concerns or reservations they have about the project or its outcomes, you have to be able to know this as well. How would you know a stakeholder's concern? This one is very simple, don't think it. Would you know the reservations of a stakeholder about a project? Communicate. You see why I like it. Communicate. Good. So it's very simple. At the end of the day, you need to communicate one form or the other, round table, emails. Okay. There are some people, when you send some stakeholders, when you send them emails, they would never respond. Not that they haven't seen those. They are very busy people. But catch 5 minutes of the person's time, especially the CEOs. Catch 5 minutes of the time. This and this and this is what I want to do. I need your approval on ABC. And okay, go like it. Go, thank you. That done. You send that same thing by email 3 days, 1 week. You won't get a response. You have to know your stakeholder. You know one, no comments. Let's proceed. What their expectations of the project are? What impact or what impact a positive or negative project outcome would have on them. Stakeholders, if you make the project fail, they will, what is the, how do you say in English? They will throw you stake because that stakeholder has put his last investment, everything into that project. And so for that stakeholder, you can't come and say, this failed. It is not an option. You have to know if you have that kind of stakeholder amongst your people. Then you advise yourself. Okay, whether there are any anticipated conflicts of interest with other stakeholders that you need to be aware of. This is crucial. There are some people that they are in open conflict. Some organizations are in open conflict. They might even be doing the same thing. But if you go and bring the two of them around the table, you won't get any. Let me give you a typical example. Please forgive me if you are here and you work there. So we had, what was it? It was some kind of affair, let me put it that way, where we were talking about our interventions. And there was MTN, and then there was Vodafone. You know what happened to us? There was even another example. There was Fidelity Bank and there was Commercial Bank. For the bank, one of them ended up not coming, didn't show up. The other one came. For the telcos, got zero. They all didn't come. So you have to know your stakeholders and understand them. So in that vein, they are not fighting, but there are some unspoken rules which you need to understand. So that if you need one, bring one. If you need both, go here. You have to understand. Okay. Is the stakeholder always right? Well, what is the stakeholder? I am the allergy this time. I have my money. You came to see me and I liked your idea. And now I'm saying that I want this way. I'm asking again, is the stakeholder always right? No. You project managers here, you will suffer with your project. So the stakeholder cannot always be right. Sometimes, as I said, they talk out of ignorance or lack of understanding. Let me put it that way. So what is your role as a project manager for a very stubborn stakeholder who thinks that I am the boss? And said it. You know, we have bosses like that. For those bosses, when you say it and it is wrong, you leave them. Let them go and hate. When they hate and the project doesn't work, you all start again. At the end of it, everybody has to. But my point is that as a project manager, you need to be able to manage stakeholders like that. Because some stakeholders insist they are always right because of the kind of power or influence they have over the project. But as a project manager, you need to be able to push back a little, balance the interest of people a little, but all whilst you are doing this with the goals of the project, the aim of your project, what do you want to achieve in mind? You don't do it such that at the end of the year, you are also off track. You have to balance it. There it is, balancing everyone's needs, requirements, and objectives. Stakeholders don't always work for the project manager. This is especially with the external stakeholders who have great influence, might have great power, but are not necessarily within the project manager's direct control or influence. And so it brings upon us an extra layer of complexity. And you need to be able to communicate with people at different levels of businesses with different interests. Okay, so when you are managing stakeholders, there's one thing that we don't do too well as Ghanaians. We don't like documenting. We like to talk and we like the getting in the flow of their work, the project, but we don't like to document. Stakeholder engagement in a good project manager sphere, you need to document. So it even helps you, because if you document your stakeholders for this project, by all means, the project ends. Remember, one attribute of a project is that it has a beginning, it has an end. And so when it ends and you move on to the next project, and it's a similar, you start from a certain level. You are not now coming to think about who my stakeholders is. You have the list already documented somewhere. And that list to be documented such that you have it in terms of what the person is, who the person is, what kind of influence or power the person brings on board. All that details should be documented. And as I mentioned, there are some stakeholders that you would not need them from the start. You need them at a point, and vice versa. You need to not forget to document all of these. That stakeholder list should also have your roles and responsibilities for the different stakeholders clearly listed. Even at the end of the day, you can even add another column that talks about that stakeholder's strength and weakness, so that it helps you in your next agenda or your next project. And it keeps you focused as well. Once you document, there's a saying with one of our donors, our funders, in God we trust, all others paper. And they won't listen to anything. Doesn't matter how you say it. Where's your paper? Where's your document? When you do this, it also keeps you focused. At the end of the day, when you need something, you're not now going to start from scratch and do the thinking process again. Everything is on the paper. Okay, so there's the last point also. Once you have everything there, it helps you to engage the right people at the right time. I hope I'm almost done. Okay, so one thing also is communication in stakeholder engagement. When you have done all of this, you have mapped them out, you know who to trust, who to take this particular mail to, who to consult for A, B, and C. You need to be able to communicate, and it is one important function of a project manager. If you're a project manager and you are shy, look for a different, go and look for something else to do. Because you are going to engage people at all levels. You have to be bold such that one day when they say, go and see the president, get up, like my boss. My boss was going to look for money from the government for we have indoor residual spraying. It's a very expensive intervention. And for Ghana malaria, the government contribution is, so we're going to look for more money from the government to help in that venture. But, she's a lady. She went confident, took the size and confused the people. When she came out of there, we had money to do 2 districts. And this is part. They had to go that far. And so you have to be able to communicate and be very confident as a project manager. If you are not there yet, start working on yourself. Everything is work in progress. You can work on yourself and get there, but you have to be able to communicate well and communicate clearly, not the kind that after you are done talking, you're like, or today, because you started from A and ended at Z and came to Q. It's all confusing. You have to be very clear, concise, especially when you have stakeholders that don't have time, like the CEOs and the kind of people we invited for that private sector engagement I was talking about. You are not now going to try to see how you are going to arrange your things. By the time you get there, you know what you want. You tell yourself, from this meeting, I should have done A, B, and C, or achieved A, B, and C. Go with how to communicate that clearly, no ambiguity. You also have to employ the various channels and forms. Again, as you know your stakeholders, you know which channel to use. Regular and transparent updates. As some project managers, because they are very crooked, they are not transparent. At any point in time, when you call him, I remember any name here. No, a name. When you call him, Mr. Mensa, I need an update on Project B. Okay, Madam, I'll give you Project B update. Then you meet you forget to. You meet Mr. Mensa again, day 2. Mr. Mensa, oh, Madam, I'll bring it. But you realize that will take you another 2 weeks or so because Mr. Mensa doesn't have any update for you. Because Mr. Mensa is crooked. Mr. Mensa is now going to think about how to straighten the crookedness before Mr. Mensa comes. So as a good project manager, you have to give regular and transparent updates. You have to be transparent about your dealings. Active listening, responsiveness, empathy to stakeholder concerns and feedback. There are some stakeholders that can talk your head off. Most of the time, they are those with low. Anyway, they can talk your head off, but as a project manager, you have to be able to sit and listen. You have to be able to take feedback that comes also because it all helps you refine what you do. Communication plan, including roles and responsibilities. So at the end of all that we are talking about, you have a communication plan that includes all of this. Ensure your plan gives stakeholders visibility about what matters to them. So once you have understood your stakeholders very well, in line with achieving your goals, that plan has to be very clear as to how you're achieving your goals, but also with the stakeholder interest in mind. So I think this is that one slide. So by all means, review items from the stakeholder engagement. By all means, check in regularly with your stakeholders, and you can institute when you do that, you can decide that depending on the kind of project you run, you can decide that every week you meet them, every month, every quarter. I find that the quarter is less stressful, but it also depends on the kind of projects that you run. You have to also, by all means, ask yourself, am I communicating with my stakeholders? Or is it just sitting by my table planning and hoping that everybody falls in line at the end of the day? You have to monitor conflict at stakeholder level. This happens a lot more than we think, especially amongst the big people. You have to know how to manage it as a stakeholder. You have to lead. So all of these stakeholders are important, but you, the project manager, you understand the project better than everybody, and you have to lead. You have to be able to take, as much as they have influence and power over you, you have to still be able to take them by the hand and say that we are going in this direction and not this direction. You have to be able to lead as a project manager. You have to be able to educate. As I said, I just remembered something. Some of the stakeholders, they are very ignorant. Maybe ignorant is not the right way to put it, but they don't understand what you are doing. They don't understand what you are doing. And let me give you an example. When around the time of COVID, we had all these people, I call them semi-literate. They know something small. This is especially for the Boga people. They know something small. And then they add all the things that they don't know. And then they confuse the facts. So there were these bloggers and people talking about COVID and all of that. As a scientist, you listen to them and you go like, excuse my French. But the person is saying it very confidently. You as a project manager, if you have a stakeholder like that, you need to be able to stakeholder that down. And sometimes it takes taking the person to lunch or breakfast. Take the person that invests more, pay for that breakfast. You know what you want. Keep that at the back of your head. And let the stakeholder understand. If that stakeholder essentially has power and influence, but is messing up your project. You get it. Educate your stakeholders. You have to also be able to negotiate. Some stakeholders insist that this is it. You as a project manager, you have to have negotiation skills and be able to say that, okay, it's all right, I understand. What if we change this side and maintain it this way? Is it okay with you? Then maybe it is. Then everybody has peace. You have to be able to know how to do this. Have stakeholders meet the team. This is a booster for the team that you work with. As a project manager, if you have people on your team and you have the big people, one day, call your team and the big people, let them sit down. Tell them that, oh, this is the one who does this. The last time that we achieved this member of mine was the one who led us through this. At the end of the day, your team member is very happy. And they're very happy in the head. Next time when you say wake the person up at 12 minutes, the person will wake because you have introduced that team member, the big people person. You have raised this up. And for the big people today, tend to understand the kind of people or the kind of things that you put together to achieve the big things that you do, that you present to them. So they appreciate it better. Acknowledge stakeholder contributions. For lack of a better word, some stakeholders on the fans, fans. In a meeting, you call out what the stakeholder has done or contributed. Sometimes even helps you bring the other stakeholders' minds to the fact that I can also do this or even better. So acknowledge the contributions of your stakeholders. Okay. So in conclusion, stakeholder engagement, stakeholder management shouldn't be an afterthought. You should build this throughout the process right from the beginning. You should communicate regularly. You should keep people up to date. You should listen. You should feel. You should direct. You should lead the project towards its success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Atuvia. I actually wanted you to continue. Yeah, such a beautiful presentation, isn't it? I think Atuvia should start talking for a living. What do you think? You should start talking for a living. So Atuvia, maybe I'll be in your team, so you pay me. Yes, thank you so much. So we would like to have some very, very few conversations. You have some questions, you can bring it up. You have contributions, you can bring it up. Yeah, contributions, questions, anything at all. Anything you want to add, feedbacks, reviews, whatever, you can bring it up. Online, please, you're also involved, so you can put your questions there, contributions, and then we'll be willing to answer. Maybe I'll be here. Yes, go ahead, sir. So just mention your name once again so we know you, then you go ahead with your question.
Steven, my name is Israel. I wanted to find out, I think from the presentation, I wanted to find out how does timeline play a role in stakeholder engagement? So I think communication stood out, but it is where you have to meet a very strict timeline with the project. I handle software projects. I want to find out how does timeline play a role in terms of driving stakeholder engagement.
Okay, thank you. So how does timeline play a role when it comes to stakeholder engagement? So we'll take 2 questions at a time. She takes it as a goal, and then we'll come back to questions again. So how does stakeholder engagement, or how does timeline play a role in stakeholder engagement? That's the first question. Second.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm Nelson Kwame. Please, I would like to know, because you didn't make mention of risk as a project manager, and what are some of the risk factors that could, like when maybe in a project like vaccine production, let's say malaria vaccine production, when it fails, what are some of the risks as a project manager? What do you encounter? Please.
Okay, so you mean risk with respect to stakeholders or general risk?
Risk, yes.
Just risk generally. Okay. So your first question, timeline with stakeholder, then the next one is risk. Any project at all.
Thank you. So timeline, you have projects, you are the project manager, you best know the time that you have. And so there are some stakeholders that when you engage them, it takes you about 4 weeks to see them. You have to bear that in mind. Because of the time of your project, so you can't be having daily meetings or even weekly meetings. You have to bear that in mind. So you have to think around it in this way. With the time that I have, the kind of stakeholders that I have, are they going to help me timeline? sometimes you can even have some stakeholders that can speed up a certain part of the project because of some expertise they bring on board. You have to consider that. So when you do time, you see there's a way that you can shorten time. There's a way you have to consider all of that as a project manager when you're trying to engage them. And you don't go and engage somebody. The person could help. The person could bring on board something, but it doesn't fall within your timeline. It won't help you as a project manager. Oh, that one, where's Charles?
I'm here, please.
Please answer that one.
What's your question?
Risk. Was that the whole?
So,
Oh, okay. So, vaccine production. Okay, let me take it this way. Because we do public health, every intervention that we bring on board has to go through some project. Because we do public health, do with people don't take certain things for granted and take certain risks. For example, with the area that I work, I do vector control. So anything that can control the vector, in this case, the mosquito. So we are talking about the sprays, the mosquito nets, etc. So when there's a new product in Ghana, there was a product that some people brought. I don't think it would be business, to be good for business if I mention the name. So let me skip that. And they said that it was going to do a particular thing. So for us, before you can get to taking that product to even one person in Ghana, so far as they have to do with malaria, you have to test it in the lab. You have to test it in the lab a number of times. You have to get a small simulated field setting and test it there. And you come to the real life field, that is if they pass. The real life field setting and test it there as well. Before we go to like a community, before we can even think of expanding. So these are, when it comes to my line, the main risk is the health of people. And the other thing too is that, especially with health, if it is an intervention that you know is going to help, you have to get it right from the beginning in terms of your stakeholder engagement and the risk of your stakeholders messing up your project. For example, we had a particular spray that we put on walls of homes. And there were some people who came to say that the last time we sprayed, somebody died in the room. The last time we sprayed, there was a pregnant woman. The next day, the person was in labor and the person went to, and the person lost the baby. The person probably would have lost the baby anyway. But because we sprayed, didn't do good stakeholder engagement. The people in the community who are benefiting from the intervention, they are key stakeholders, end users. You need to be able to let them understand that when I spray, I have to wait for 2 days to see A, B, and C results. And if I see that my wall is white, it doesn't mean that there's juju there. It is just deposits from the chemical. If you see that the place is smelling, it doesn't mean that you are smelling dead body. It's just effects from. So you have to preempt all the things that they think would go wrong and do community engagement to kind of make sure that they understand that when they get there, they already know how to deal with it. So when you talk about public health interventions, these are some of the things that we face. I'm trying to link it very well with stakeholders. I hope I did well.
Thank you, Sylvia. Yes, online. Let's have a question from online, Regina.
Yes, please. We have 3 questions from online. So we have Khadija Abdul Latif. She says, thank you for a great presentation. And her question is, how does one deal with an overly enthusiastic stakeholder who seems to want to take over the project? Overly enthusiastic stakeholder who seems to want to take over the project. And then a question from Judith says, how do you handle a co-project manager who isn't a team player and likes to work independently.
Okay.
And there are 3 questions, so let me
Okay,
take
let's
them.
take the third one.
Yeah. The last one is from Enyo. She says, one of the key things in my 20, okay, I think she is sharing her experience. So one of the key things in my 20 years in managing stakeholders is managing your environment as well. Culture, country, context, understanding body language of stakeholders. So that's her contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enyo, for your contribution. So, an overly enthusiastic stakeholder who wants to take over the project, then a peer project manager who also wants to work on his own is not a team player.
Okay, so the first one, an overly enthusiastic stakeholder. Oh, so remember I said the stakeholder project manager has to be able to lead. So you have to be able to put the person in the person's place nicely. So, for example, in a meeting, you have made a contribution, and the stakeholder makes probably a counter contribution and is all over the place trying to make his point. So what you can do is, thank you very much. Your points are well noted. I've also come to learn something that if you learn how to say well noted, you get away with a lot of things. So your points are well noted. We will take them into consideration. And within that space, try and manage it this way. That means that that stakeholder is one of those you have to take to lunch. Get the person on your side. The person might seem antagonistic and all, but those people, they are just, you just need to know them, one thing about them or one thing that their interest is. So have lunch with the person, understand. Don't, if you go about it from this point, I want to show you that I'm the project manager. Every day there will be chaos in your project. So get the person on your side. Try as much as possible. If it's not working, it's not working. Try the person for breakfast. Yeah, I like breakfast bar. The very nice one, the different. So now you know. Okay, anyway. But get the person on your side. And the other one, who likes to work on his own? Hey, project manager. And you probably shouldn't be a project manager, but we have people like that. He doesn't want to work with anybody. And then the question I'll ask myself is, what do I need you for? I approach you once, twice. Is it working? Still, can I get somebody else to do that? But first of all, look at all the different approaches. Your colleague project manager, it could just be that the person is just a quiet person. So you find a way to go around the person. Could be that definitely the person wants to, don't even see how that is possible as a project manager and you want to work alone. It's very difficult for you. But if you have people like that, you manage them as best as possible. At worst, remember the question, who do I need? Ask yourself, do I really need this person? If it is yes, then find a way. If it is the fact that he can do it, maybe even do it better. Maybe at the end of the day, it will make our relationship a bit difficult. But the question you should ask yourself is, what is the goal of the project that you want to achieve?
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, I think we can put our hands together at this point. Yes, thank you. As much as possible online, we want you to also talk. We want to hear your voices. So you can lift your hand in the group and then Regina will pick you up and we can hear your voices also. And can we take a last round of questions? Wow, beautiful. Okay, can we have all the hands up? So we have about 5 hands up in person. So we'll take them one after the other. Let's take this first 3, then we'll come back to the 2 here, and then we'll go online, come back to the 2, and then I think we can run out. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Wow, you're having a notebook. All the best, Otubia.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Julia Marianne, and my question is, it's quite similar to the online questions that were asked. But then, so for example, let's say you're a young project manager and you have powerful stakeholders who are much older than you. And so maybe when you go to them and you require some information, they are not willing to share that information with you just because of maybe how they see you to be young, or I don't know. How do you work around such projects? How do you work around such stakeholders, because it's quite difficult, and especially for example, let's say they also maybe ask you to ask maybe their subordinates or something, but you need that information from them. How do you handle that? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting question. Really practical.
My name is Opon. Similar to what she said, if you have an influential, powerful stakeholder, and it's proving like difficult for you to move forward with your project, as somebody said, there's timeline, but it's like the person is impeding progress. How do you deal with such a situation? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Let's have the last one, yes.
Okay.
The one who wants to enjoy the conversation.
Thank you, Lotubia, for beautiful lecture. My question is regards to media. How would a project manager be able to manage media, especially blackmails that could come with some of these highly political projects? So media bumping into you, even though media is a stakeholder. So, but at certain points of the project, they can come in and out, post all kinds of things online against your project. So how can you deal with scenarios like this?
Okay, the influence of media. You took those all right. So.
Okay, so your question is very interesting. How old do you think I am? Yo. Okay, so look at me, and there's a group that I chair. We call it the Malaria Vector Control Oversight Committee. We have people from FDA, people from EPA, funders, everybody doing malaria vector control in Ghana. We have commercial partners, people from Japan, etc. I chair that committee. And usually when it is online, it is nicer because I'm able to bully them without. But when it is around the table, I've had a lot of instances where people see, I'm using myself as an example. People see me and believe that I probably can't do what I'm there to do. Or she looks too young, she can't do it. Or immediately they see your face, they don't think any good thing is going to come out of you. So their minds are closed. I've had instances like that. You have to be able to tell yourself that it is not your fault that you are young. Or it is not your fault that somebody, I don't want to say that. They say that I look CTT. It's not your fault. That's how you are. So what do you do? So at the end of the day, you have to know exactly what you are about. So you don't go to a meeting, or you don't go to a place seeking for help and I need this and then no. You have to be very confident. You have to let them know you know what you are talking about. So when I start to talk about my field, which is vector control, I told you I'm an entomologist. You will look behind me and wonder if I'm the same person. I'll talk to you with a straight face. At the end of the day, you can go and check any entomology book. What I'm saying is there. You have to know your stuff. So that when so somebody even told me that the person He didn't say it that way, but me, I like getting to the bottom line of things. So the bottom line is that if I hadn't spoken, the person wouldn't have taken me seriously. So me too. Now I know that I can influence when I speak. So what do? I make sure that I know my stuff when I'm coming to you. I'm giving you correct data. And I know exactly what I want to take out of that meeting. And for me, there's nothing like, this one is not possible. We won't do it like this. No. Before I get there, my dream home, who said, this is how we are going to do it. This is what I want to get. I will get it before I leave. Because I will not come to you and say that, me, but the way I would approach it, the person will have to stop and take me seriously. Maybe it won't be on the first account. You don't give up. You try again. The next time the person sees you, the person will pay attention. And especially for the big men. One other thing is that this group that I was talking about, I also have people that support me in terms of, I have a professor. Before I go into that meeting, I'll go and say, Prof, and then agenda need to see you, but wait a minute, what can I do about this? And then he gives me the apple. He's in the meeting too. So when I bring it up and I say one or two, I leave it to him. I engage him right from the beginning. He knows what the focus is. So you have to engage, put people around you that can support what you are doing. I think all the questions are around the same. Yes. So the other thing you have to keep in mind is that you are young, but you are not foolish. You are young. You might not have experience as the CEO, but you know what you are about and you know where you want to get to. Put that in your mind. And everything that you do work towards. I don't know whether you get me. Okay. So the other thing is, for your question, it's almost the same, but let me add this to it, that you need to engage stakeholders from the beginning. Some people learn their only problem is that you didn't call them when you were starting. Just like the big people, like Professor I'm talking about, right from the beginning, get the person in your corner. Right from the beginning, before you call that big stakeholder meeting, know the kind of what your stakeholders bring on board. You know that this person will be a bit difficult. Find that person and engage the person before you come to a bigger meeting, and now you can't show that you are the project manager. He would also show you that I have the money. So right from the start, it usually works. So most of the projects, the community projects I was talking about, right from the beginning, we bring in the chiefs and the opinion leaders. We have several pictures in my office of big people in my office doing this before TV. Because right from the beginning, we go and see them. This is what we want to do. This is what we will need from you. When we come, probably your people will say A, B, and C. But when they come and say A, B, and C, this is how you answer them. So you empower the leader. When all the discussions and the issues are coming on board, you should have, you'll be standing there like this and you'll be fighting for you and defending the cause. So get them right from the beginning, the solution. And the media, it is also very similar. I'm surprised all the three were very, very similar. So we have training for media personnel, malaria. I think we do it every year or twice a year or something. So we noticed at a point that you will read a media article and you go like, who wrote this? It's technically no, it's not correct. It doesn't hold water, baskets. It doesn't hold anything. So we did this. We called them hotel, food, snack, lunch, second snack. And then you see that thing. So, and then we take them through a kind of training we would give to a district health worker on a malaria intervention or malaria. And then we take them through. First, we do a pre-test. We let you know that. Then we do the training. Then we do a post-test. Then you score high. And now you realize that, I've learned something. So again, engage your stakeholders. Whatever it is you want to. One thing that we do that doesn't help us as project managers is that we kind of keep things to ourselves. Right from the beginning of the project, lay the same thing. This is what we want to do. This is how we are going to do it. What do you say? What can you bring on board? Lay it there. Let people bring their opinions. People begin to feel wronged when they think you are hiding something. Especially media. You might not be hiding, but they think that because you are not very open about it, it means that you are hiding something. When it comes to the media, transparency, engagement, every engagement is key. Who has the media? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, just in addition to that, all right. So just.
Thank you so much. Very impactful and insightful session. And I love the questions because they're very practical as well. So yes, for the question on managing stakeholders, yes, like she mentioned, interpersonal skills are very, very, very important. And another thing I want to add is that you want to keep your communications open. Wherever you're communicating, let it be an open platform. So it is clear that it is this person that has not responded, because it can save you a lot. It can appear to other people that you're not watching. Yes. So let communications be clear and be, don't send too much of private messages. You want to send messages and copy the people who need to be aware.
Everybody, and there's an issue, and there's this thing that we do that is very, you go to the email, you get a copy. Sometimes you don't even send the trail, you take a screenshot or send the trail to the people involved on blah, blah, blah. You state, you add time. I said this and this and this, and this was your response. So now you can't come and say your back is clean. Transparency.
Thank you so much. How many of us are learning a lot? I'm learning so much. Yeah. Thank you so much. Some hands are raised online, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's have them. Let's have them speak. Yes, online hands are raised. Then we come to this here.
Hands here, but they are.
And you raise a hand.
Oh, okay.
Anya, would you like to speak, please? I hear your hands were up.
I just wanted to say that in terms of taking people to lunch, I think I'm looking at it from maybe the international standpoint, and I'm looking at it from ethics. And I think in terms of ethics, especially if you work with government stakeholders, etc., there are certain things that you can do. But I would say with 20 years experience in managing stakeholders, it's really important you map your stakeholder out and kind of understand what they're interested in and have open communication with them. I mean, especially in the Ghanaian context, you can easily find out, who he's related to, find some kind of common interest both of you are interested in. You can even meet the person at a funeral ground or, a wedding or whatever, and have that conversation, or find someone that links the two of you together. I'm very cautious about the lunch breakfast because there's ethics. So I'm just saying with caution, especially when you're working for international organizations, it's not appropriate, especially for government stakeholders.
Thank you so much. So Enya is raising the concern of ethics. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Enya. You need to know your environment. It's important. You need to know your environment. Let me give you an example. We went for a meeting in Geneva. After the meeting, we went for, was it a dinner or something? And as a typical Ghanaian, I was sitting somewhere. You say, let's go to dinner. So what's the expectation? You pay for me. That's the expectation. But we finished the meeting, and then we finished the dinner, which was also a working quote. And then they came, hey, this is your bill. This is your bill. This is your bill. Yes. Yes. Everybody paid. But me, I didn't say, actually, I wouldn't have gone to that restaurant to go and eat. But I had to pay. So know your environment. That is what I think Enyo is raising. It's important. Know what
Yes,
works.
please.
So we are working in Ghana. Know what works.
Thank you. Can we have someone else on it?
There are questions here, not a hand raised. Can I go ahead with it?
Yeah, go ahead with the questions.
Okay. So, what can you do when a stakeholder is deliberately holding back vital information that you need? And the other one says, how do you deal with a stakeholder, for example, product owner, who is always setting unrealistic goals for you as a project manager and the team, and is not ready to listen to any other opinion? Thank you. I think we had somebody in sales or marketing here. Don't say that you are not here anymore. The person was around this side. That left. Hey, it was you. Yes, it was you. Okay, so I know that for those in sales and marketing, that is usually a big task for you, trying to meet quotas and all. How do you deal with it?
See that when can you
The question was, how do you deal with a boss who sets unrealistic targets for you time and time again?
it mostly happens, and when you are in a situation like that, because you'll be receiving pressure from the boss, you have to up you have to be up to your task. Yes, and you have to do something to change the game so that you always be at peace with your boss or like.
Yeah. Okay, so it means that you have to be proactive about what you are doing. Think outside the box. There's also the possibility of speaking to your boss or the manager about the unrealistic target. But in Ghana here, when you keep on doing that, you will get into constant struggles. So you need to be able to think outside the box, see how best you can go around in meeting your target. The other option would be to quit. But I know people who quit their jobs because they couldn't handle the pressure of meeting targets. I know people like that. It's not, we have the mic, okay. It's not advisable, but please think outside the box and find a solution.
Okay, so I also work in the bank. So my experience is that usually the kind of HOD that I work with, if probably I'm not, I have a gap in my performance, would say, hey, what can we do to bridge the gap? Is there any support? So I'm thinking that along the line, that can be of help. Yeah. And to the lady's question, the lady read, yes, I think she made mention of the fact that you answered her by saying that she has to support some sort of presentation to the influential person if she's struggling. So I wanted to add to the point that a very good data analysis would suffice over here. Because the sort of work we do always have to be presentation. You have to justify the things. You have to do this. A typical example. So in the bank I work with, I have been tasked to come up with net promoter score that would actually give essential feedback from customers on our digital channel. And we are talking about authentic feedback because that's the way we measure ourselves and be able to tell that, okay, this
doing well, it is not what is doing well. Then again, as I speak to you, my project, my business case was approved, everything except finance, saying the cost is too much. Meanwhile, other countries have gone live and they are receiving, feedback.
Right.
And I'm a nursing mother, maybe just 5 months, and from maternity leave, and I didn't hear good news because I was really pushing very hard for that thing to go live because of the tentative deadline that we have been given. And so then again, I had to make a case that hey, I need to justify it. And so it's been taken to next year, third quarter, for us to go live. So, but we still have to, ask ourselves, are we going to go with a third-party vendor involved in this, or we should do an in-house one, and that one too can also come with some additional cost. So that's where we are. So then, just to buttress the point that you were making, usually you always have to make the yes, a very good data analysis, justified. And then also, if you are not, if you are struggling, I feel that you should have a boss who should support you, able to identify the gaps and then bring you up to speed so that you can perform better.
Thank you. Congratulations, anyway. Your project is being financed. So thank you very much. We should have just given the microphone to her so that I took down when the questions were asked. That's the question on the boss who is given too much. If you have a boss who is not supportive, don't give up. You do the best that you can until you decide that today I'm laying down my tools. I don't work here anymore. Do the best that, yes, you do the best that you can. If Ashley said you need A, B, and C, go to him. You said I should do this. I would need this kind of support to be able to do that. It could be a yes or a no. I always say that there are only two answers to every question. Yes or no. So ask anyway. If it is yes, praise the Lord. If it is no, what else can I do to get a yes the next time? You keep thinking like that and finding ways around it.
Thank you. Okay. Questions are all over the place. Huh? Okay, are you the last two? So what, you are the last three or two? Because I'm counting three. Who is also unto the Son of God? There's one person here who, okay, so I'll come back to you, three. Okay, let's take Eunice. I'll come back to you. Eunice is online, right? Yes, then our time is also running. So Eunice is online. We'll take Eunice. Hand is up. We'll take, my dear, please what's your name? Nimatu. We'll take Nimatu, then we'll take the three powerful people here. And we are done with the conversation time. Eunice, let's hear you, please. Eunice, unmute, let's hear you.
Okay, hi. Hi, good
Hello.
evening, everybody. So, hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, please go ahead.
Okay. So, I am a project management certified person, and I went through my certification using Step Up. So, I have a contribution to the various questions that have been asked, not necessarily a question in general. The lady who asked the question about dealing with superiors, sort of, let's say an age difference, maybe younger, and the facilitator gave a very vivid contribution. I just want to add that always stick to the communication, the mode of communication that has been outlined for the project. Do not use a different mode or medium of communication when you're communicating with the stakeholders involved. If it's an email setting that has been outlined, stick to that. If it's a WhatsApp group that has been outlined, stick to that. Do not engage them individually unless you have to. And somebody else mentioned that you should know your environment. I also work in sales and marketing in the IT world. So usually for us taking clients, our stakeholders to lunch and all those things is allowed because sometimes we want to gather information for research on a product. So that's allowed for us usually. However, you always have to do that and document everything. And after the meeting, whether a lunch meeting or a formal meeting has ended, you always share an email to sort of a minute, whatever has transpired during that meeting. So there's always evidence of what has happened. And the last question that was asked on how you should deal with not meeting realistic quotas. So I used to have a boss that would always say in sales, efforts are not rewarded. It's only results. And let's not forget that whatever quotas has been given to each individual in a team, the total of it is for your superior. So superiors are not actually also not suffering. Let me put it that way. So what you can usually do is do not focus on the numbers you are seeing. Just do the best that you can. So what I personally do is always put in my best so that when I go to sleep, I know I did my best. And it comes with experience. However, like the previous lady who spoke said, some people cannot stand the pressure to be bow out. But always put out your best. Those who set the targets know they are unrealistic. I always say there's always a target within the target that has been given to you. So don't look at the numbers and let them scare you. Just put out your best. But just always know that efforts are not rewarded in. It's always the results that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice. Thank you so much. Okay, so as part of the conversation time, we have some of our alumni to share their experience with us. I mean, alumni of Step Up Business School to share their experience with us. So let's take one of them and we go with the rest of the questions and then we may be wrapping up. Okay, so Miss Leslie. So Mrs. Leslie Sampson. Yes. Miss Sampson, our opening prayer specialist. Yes. Is here to give us the experience. Please put our hands together for you. The alumnus of Step Up Business School.
Thank you again, Subwa. I feel like coming back to class. Yes, thank you. It was such a very insightful session. I'm enjoying myself. We're running out of time, children now. Okay. So my experience as a project manager, okay, what I would say is that in project management, I know that there is predictive and there is agile. But from my experience, I would say that what is required is to have an agile mindset while applying the tools and the process. Even while for those preparing for the exams, it's important that you just have that mindset because what you're going to be tested on is your mindset. You know, they want to know whether you are a fighter or you're a collaborator. They want to know whether communication is important to you or you like to work as an individual. So the question would boil down to how you think as a project manager. Like from all the interactions going on here, you would see that interpersonal skills is like very, like you have to, you know, you have to be high on interpersonal skills. You have to be high on communication. You have to be high on collaboration, right? I know that in Agile, I'm getting so much of Agile because I do more of Agile, but I realize that whether you're doing predictive or you're doing hybrid, that mindset, it will give a good guide, right? So whatever you're doing, you want to put people first, put delivery first, put the goal of the project first before any other thing. She asked a very valid question. Are all stakeholders right? All stakeholders are not right, right? But you don't want to come to their face and tell them they are not right. You want to prioritize the project goals. For the stakeholder to be right, that means the stakeholder is working in alignment to the project goals, not so much into their own personal interest, which they would always want to do, right? So yeah, I had a great time. I had a great time here at Step Up. You know, when I heard the we'll give you your money back if you did not pass. I'm like, is it that you're going to write for me? But no, not that they're writing for us, right? But the lessons, the teachings were very practical and very, very, very useful. I actually had my exams taken here as well. So I wrote my exams here. I had the setup done for me. But what they didn't tell us was how the setup was going to be done. So I was actually shocked to see that an examiner was with me all through online. If you turn, the person sees you're turning. If you stand, the person sees you're standing. So you can chat the person up. The person gets to speak with you if you need any assistance. So, of course, they don't want to see shadows in the room. So we had to take pictures. Mr. Charles helped me take pictures of the whole room and send to them. So they had to vet that everything was okay. I had to take off my wristwatch. So they don't want to see anything extra, just you and the device. The calculator you need is on screen. Everything you need is on screen. So that's how it was. But yeah, it was a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. I know Leslie has a lot to share, but it's concise for you at this time. Okay, so let's take, so we have 3 questions. Is that it? No, we have 4 questions. Okay, 4 questions, and we are done with the question time. Okay. Come again, please. Yeah, from 2 to 3 to 4, yes. Yeah, people added up. Okay, so anyone go ahead.
I had so much on my mind. I actually worked out. I wanted to join online, but I'm glad I stayed, and I'm glad I spent hours here so much. I want to ask, in your years of work as a project manager, being a female in what I assume a male-dominated field, have you ever encountered sexual harassment where people make passes at? How do you handle it? And if no, how do you handle a stakeholder who wants to make a pass at you? I know the answer that other lady online gave, that you stick to the maybe communication channel, answers and questions to some extent. But what about the instances where the other person rather tries to get you privately? Some people at every point they want to corner you. Yes, at every point they want to corner you. Making passes at you.
Thank you. So we'll add one more question and then takes it to go.
Thank you. I think I'd like to appreciate 2 major lessons that I've learned today. So especially with the email ignoring stakeholders can break your heart. And thanks for letting me know that I could just intentionally, accidentally pass by their office. Like I came to see someone else, and I'll chance on them going to the washroom. And I'll be like, oh, what do you think about this? Thank you so much. That was helpful. And also, she left. Her issue about open communication, like, I mean, it's a magic. It works every time. It never fails. So I'm reinforcing that. I've used it works, and now I've got like a confirmation that it does work. My question is, I've heard that in stakeholder engagement, lobbying, the term lobbying may not be the best thing to do. I think it depends on how it's defined, but there are some misconceptions around lobbying in stakeholder engagement. I was hoping if you could throw more light on that so that we don't go beyond engagement into lobbying, or what's the way around the whole lobbying thing, and why does it have issues? And finally, as a project manager yourself, with your experience, can you share some resources or tools that we can also use to unwind? Because sometimes when you are messed up, you mess up. So how can we also unwind such that we can be very effective in our stakeholder management? Thank you.
Thank you too. We're unwinding.
We're unwinding here. This is one of them. Lobbying definition.
an attempt by individuals or private interest groups influence the decisions of the state government here, but I'll say others. So lobbying itself is actually a good thing in stakeholder management. An attempt to influence the decisions. But in Ghana, when we say lobbying, we have negated the word to an extent that I like to be very frank. Sometimes it doesn't even help me, but well, it means in Ghana, when you say lobbying, it means that I came to see you to tell you about my plan. Then when I finished, so that you are going to affect my project. So whatever decision that you take, make sure the envelope is speaking in my direction. That is the Ghanaian lobby. But lobbying in itself is not that. So know your environment. For some people, they do that. For some people, their principles won't allow them to do that. So they'll stick by the books. So you are lobbying, you are using different means to make sure that people know what you need and are in your corner, basically. But you know what I mean with the Ghanaian lobbying, yes. So please advise yourself and know your environment, which one best. And you had, I'm coming to that. You had a second question. That one is very, very individual. I know that a lot of people around here work a lot. And now we work a lot because we need a lot of, yes. But you have to, I have the one who works directly under me would always ask, so how do you relax? That's the question you're asking, right? Most of us don't know how to relax. My husband would go and play basketball. I know people too who go to the gym. My professor, that particular professor that I'm talking about, it will amaze you. He goes to Afrikiko. Yes, Afrikiko has a live band every Wednesday. You will find nobody will tell you that this one is a professor. You find him dancing the kind of pressure on his head. I know people too who will sit in their rooms, relax. Me personally, I don't have enough time to sleep, so my unwinding is sleeping. So it has to be what works best for you. People do all sorts of things to unwind. I know a colleague who would go and sit. Just yesterday, he did that. He left the office, went to Jamestown Coffee House at ANC with his laptop and his cup of coffee. He sat there the whole day. He did some work though, but at the end of the day, he wasn't in the same environment of the office. I do that sometimes. I have places in Accra that I'll just go and sit. Yes, I will still be working, but the stress is with you. So you know yourself, and you work at it. I haven't faced the situation where I am being directly, physically, sexually harassed, because I have one principle that even the Bible, with all the knowledge in the Bible didn't give us 10 steps to avoiding sexual immorality. What did the Bible say? Flee. So me, that is my principle. I know my environment. So if I'm going into a meeting, and for the ladies, sometimes we like to pretend, but you know it's when a guy is showing interest, especially the older, you know, whatever the age, you know it. Sometimes we are very ignorant, sometimes by choice, sometimes we are just ignorant or oblivious to the fact that this particular person, that is what he wants. This particular stakeholder, out of everybody in the room, that day he brought you chocolate. The next day he said, oh, I'm coming from Dubai. And at the airport, the duty free, I saw this perfume that reminded me of you.
This is a stakeholder, this is not your friend. Stakeholder. So I bought it for you. Oh, thank you, sir. Then you collect it. The next time the person will try, the next time the person will say, oh, you remember that thing you were telling me about? Let's meet over lunch and have a discussion. Know your environment. Don't be too my big sister has a word, mwege mwege, about it. It means you are behaving you are not being wise. Be wise about and don't, especially when you come out of school directly and you have the enthusiasm and the excitement to achieve something. Sometimes you are so focused that you lose sight of these little things and nuances that you should have observed on the way and avoid them. Sometimes it can get very serious. In spite of all of that, it is still getting out of hand. Find a way to report it. Find a way to report. That is one thing that we don't do very well. We say that, oh, I'll be victimized, which might probably be the case. But then everybody will be aware of what is going on. And though they might not do anything about it, they are aware, and that at the right time it will come up. But please be very mindful of yourself as well. Sometimes this is turning into a sermon, or sometimes it's the way we present ourselves and the way we dress. You know that you have a body like mine, and you go and wear a bodycon dress to an executive meeting. You are showing everything. And the next time the chief executive is shaking you help the situation in a way. So let's be mindful of all of this.
Okay, last set of questions and we are done with conversation. Okay, 2, right? Or 3? 2, then we are done. Okay, so let me give, yes, raise the hand like 20 times. Yes, I give it to her.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth. It looks more like project management involves a lot of critical thinking, knowing yourself, knowing others, in fact, knowing how to win friends and influence people, and also mastering emotional intelligence. I want to thank Otubia for a successful project delivery, because I think that from the start of the project to the end, you've gotten us engaged, you've laughed, we are asking questions, so thank you. I think in my line of work, I work in a research firm. So I want to understand one major thing. You mentioned in your presentation that we need to know what status means to a stakeholder. And in my line of work, for instance, I know that happy employees will definitely make happy customers. But at the end of the day, the customer is like the end goal. We are looking forward to satisfying them. So in that case, how do you prioritize like one stakeholder over the other? And the client. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So my question is how to handle stakeholders that tend to always expect money from you anytime you need their support, and you know very well that without them they are not powerful, like you said, like the ones that can play a key role, not the financial part, but they influence the project in a way, especially in the rural areas, like those focal people that you know very well, they can help, but you always need money for it. So how do you handle it? Thank you.
In some projects, they are actually catered for. In health, we used to call them volunteers until we started paying them. And then in any of my documents, I will make sure the volunteer word is not there because they are taking money. So it's very difficult to work without paying. I see the kind of people you are talking about. It's very difficult to get the projects done without paying them. Sometimes you have to look
at the end of the day, it comes to money, but you have to look at other ways in which you can help. For example, on one of our projects, we pay premiums for their health insurance. Yes, we don't put monies in their hands per se. So you have to look at ways in which you can. There was a point I made on being able to negotiate. Yes, find out another way in which you can get the person to help you. If there's no line budget on your projects, sort them out. Sometimes some projects are such that you are able to manage the budget so that you can sort them out and still defend it. You can also do that. For example, you don't have a line budget saying payment off, but you have community engagement as a line budget. You can use that. So you have to find a way, understand them, understand the context. Is there another way I can do this without money to do it? If not, is there another way within my project I can sort them out? Employee and end user. It shouldn't be a conflict. Because if the end user is also not happy, what are you there as an employee for? You get it? So all that you are doing as an employee should be able to meet the need of that end user. Shouldn't be a conflict. Let's see, where do you work again? Research, which kind of research? Okay, so give me a typical example, very practical example of what you are saying.
That you have to know what status means to each of them. But you'd realize that sometimes status to the client means you sacrificing maybe your precious time, going overboard, like at certain times when they need to meet some deadline. So at that particular time, is it okay to prioritize like the client over the employee? Because sometimes it's like you're stressing the employee. It's like, I feel my bread, that kind of situation.
So last night I slept at 11:30 or 12, not because I was praying, but I was behind my computer. And there are a lot of times that in my office we work outside of work hours. I can even I go everywhere with my laptop. It's even here as I speak. At any point in time, I have packed. I am working. At any point in time, I tell the kids, keep quiet for me. Give me 10 minutes. I have to do something. So it depends on your organization, but you should. This is how I see it. My job is my job. I get it done. And if it means that I have to leave the office at 3 and work at 9, I will do it. So that I can also get to be at home and do something at home, I will do it. Because at the end of the day, you as an employee or the project manager, you have to be a balanced human being in yourself to be able to help and get your project ongoing. So her question was, how do you unwind? It's very important. You have to be able to balance your work life and your home or your self life such that none suffers. You shouldn't. So even if you have tight deadlines to meet, and so you work over what you are supposed to, find time. I call it shame. So if I do like 3 days overtime, I will ask for a day off, or I will ask for that if it is such that I can't go totally off, I'll ask for a day where I work from home. And I tell everybody, if you are looking for me, call me. I'm not available physically. I even do that with my kids sometimes. Sometimes it gets very overwhelming, such that I tell them that, I'm going to the room, mommy time. Between this time and this one, don't come and knock. Don't come and ask me anything. After that, come, we'll talk. And they understand. So set your priorities right. It shouldn't be that because you want to get your project underway, kill yourself. If you kill yourself as a project managers B will come and continue the work. So try and balance your life as much as possible. Listen to her. Find what works for you and find the way you will unwind. Important. Even if it means sleeping.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Let's put our hands together. Wow. If we allow ourselves, we'll go on and on and on and on. Because stakeholder, there are different kinds of people in this life. So there are different questions when it comes to stakeholder. Okay, so we are wrapping up. Let's take two very short statements from two of our alumni. Let's take from Morissette. Let's also take from Edna. Morissette, are you there? Hi, Morissette. Hello, Morissette, are you around? Okay, Morissette, maybe you can check up on Morissette. Edna Magnus, can you give us something? Can you just share something small with us about your experience with Step Up? Hi, Edna, are you there? If you're there, can you unmute and speak? Okay, I think we may have to follow up on Mauritius and Edna. Oh, they are speaking there. Yeah, they're online, but we're not hearing from them. Okay, so we may have to go on. Yeah, so also soon we are drawing near the end. And turn to your neighbor and say, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, it was a really wonderful time, isn't it? Yeah, it was a wonderful time. Okay, I enjoyed myself. I don't know, will you do a special session for me? 6 hours teaching. Yes, I just listened. Yes. Okay, thank you, Sylvia. We are really grateful for everything. So we'll call Regina at this point in time. Oh, Regina, come. Regina is shaking it. Regina, come. What is that? So let's call her. Oh, okay, you're not Regina. She's Regina. Yeah, so help me apologize, please. We are sorry, ma. We are sorry, ma. But others don't say Regina. They do Regina. But we are sorry. Regina, we are sorry. So Regina will give us some words of thanks. And then she's also a prayer warrior. So and she'll give us please put your hands together for Regina. Actually, that's both of them.
Okay, thank you so much, Bobby. Andrew. I say Andrew. Andrew. Okay. So first of all, we say a big thank you to God Almighty who has brought us this far, who has given us a good weather, and we've enjoyed the session today. Second thanks and the biggest one, again to Otubia. I was so much admiring you when you were speaking. I should confess, yeah, this is what we call women supporting women. Yeah. Nowadays, we won't fight ourselves again. You think we will be fighting? No. Thank you so much, Otubia. And thanks to everyone here who joined us live from the beginning of this session for this time. Thank you so much. God bless you all for coming. And thanks to Step Up team for also making this wonderful session come up. We are so grateful to you all. And to our online team, I'm sorry, how could I forget you? Online team, can we hear your voice for the last time before we go? So you can just unmute and then say something. Hello, hi, I'm here. Yeah, I enjoyed. Just say something for me, online team.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Good news for you concerning discount. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. But it's going to be the cocktail session. So online team, please, you are invited. Yeah, I can't eat alone, so I want you to join us here.
Yeah, we
Thank
want
you
to
so
see
much
the
once
cocktail.
again.
Okay.
Good to see it. We will send you pictures of them and videos. Yes,
Live.
Yes, so thank you. And we are saying the closing prayer. So, our dear Lord and Master Savior, we thank you for this wonderful moment. We give you the glory and the honor. We thank you that you've made everything successful. Even as we are here about to eat and about to leave this premises, we pray for your goodness and your mercy to continue to be with us. When we are living here, we pray for your journey mercies. Take us safely to our various destinations. At the end, we shall continue to give you glory. There's a many other things we say. In the name of Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, we pray this thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. I told you she's a prayer warrior too. Yes, okay, so we are done. Thank you so much. The cocktail session continues. Please talk to as many people as you can. And remember that this is Step Up Business School. We're ready for you to enroll in our programs and for us to be of great help to you. Okay, so
All right. So please let's go to the back and then let's have network. We said network and learn, network and eat. Okay, we are done with the learning. Now it's time to network.
yeah, please don't be in a hurry to go. Don't be in a hurry. Today is a Friday. Don't be in a hurry to go. Just a few minutes. Take something small. Talk to some few people. Okay. Thanks so much.
Right. For those of you who asked about getting certified, we will be coming around your tables to talk to you about the PMP. We also continue the conversation online on the page. So if you are not on the page, kindly share the link. We have just one last class coming up for the year. And it starts next week. Share the link. We come around to talk to you about our session. About getting your tables and everything. And go to share the link. Have a nice day.
Hello.
Someone speaking online. I'm here. Alvina, do you have a question?
No, please.
Okay. Okay. All right, you may be near to someone. You can try and find out if you are near to someone. You can connect, and today's Friday night, you get keep up to buy.